Hello everybody and welcome back. We're looking at question 30 on sort of our bank of midterm style questions. We're on to question 30, which is a written question here. And what have we got? For f of x being, that's a function, cos of x squared plus arctan of e to the x sine x. And we're being asked to find f prime. Okay. This question might seem complicated because that function f of x looks complicated. What we need to do is just go bit by bit and realize, well, this function is a composition of a composition of a composition, that sort of a thing. And we're just going to break this down chain rule after chain rule after chain rule. Okay? None of the individual derivative rules, product rule, quotient rule, chain rule, are particularly hard. But with a question like this, because we're applying so many in a row, if we make a mistake at any point, that's going to trickle down and cause us to have a bad answer at the very end. So we have to be careful. We have to maybe remember our formulas. And let's get at it. Okay. So as I read this function out, I realize it's cos of this crazy thing. Now, don't worry about this crazy thing right now. Just realize that f of x is cos of, and then we've got this inside function. So if I want f prime of x, well, that's going to be the derivative of this. But as we already remarked, this is a composition. Cosine is my outside function, and maybe I need to write that somewhere. What's the derivative of cosine? Minus sine. And then, well, it's pretty clear that whatever's left over is going to be my inside function. What's the derivative of the inside function? Let's not worry about it for a second. So it's minus sine with the inside function times the derivative of the inside function. Don't forget the chain rule. F of g of x has a derivative of f prime of g of x times g prime of x. And sometimes it's a good idea to write these formulas down if you have them memorized. Write them down as soon as you get to the examination room. Is that enough brackets? It is. So, derivative of the outside function, inside function plugged in, and now we want derivative of the inside function. Okay. Well, we could either continue on and do this sort of line by line, but that's going to get pretty long. Or we could take this as a new challenge. Okay, what's the derivative of x squared plus arctan e to the x sine x? By the way, if you're sort of a messy writer, or if you've got thoughts all over the page, it might be a good idea to just write out what rule you're using. So here we've got chain rule. Okay. Well, down here, we might split this up into the derivative of x squared plus the derivative of arctan e to the x sine x. And we might even say by the sum rule. Well, I know the derivative of x squared. It's 2x. But now the question is, what is the derivative of arctan of e to the x sine of x? Well, we can treat it as a brand new problem. You'll notice what we're doing is we are just breaking things down. We're not trying to do this all at once. Some of you out there will. Some of you out there will try this. Some few of those will be able to just do this and read the question left to right and be able to take the derivative. But that's, first of all, not a very good idea because you're prone to errors. Second of all, it's a writing question. We want to see that you're doing all this stuff. Don't just give us the answer. You will get very poor marks if you do not present your solution. All right, so what's going on here? Well, it's another composition. I've got arctan, and then I've got e to the x sine x. So arctan of x is my outside function, and I have to remember what the derivative of arctan is. Well, we did that one in class. e to the x sine x is the inside function. And now you might be able to use your own judgment, but you might be able to just say, well, e to the x sine x, let's just work that out here. Okay? You don't have to. Okay? Of course, you could do, it's not x squared on the bottom. I guess it would be the inside function, e to the x sine x squared plus 1 times the derivative of e to the x sine x. Okay? And now we're on to the last one. I guess if we're labeling our rules, this guy would be chain rule. Okay? And now, what have we got? E to the x sine x. This is product rule. And if we need to, absolutely, we write down the rule just to remind ourselves. Don't forget this plus and f of x, g prime of x. All right, so what's the derivative of e to the x, my very first function? It's e to the x. What's the derivative of sine? It's cos. Plus e to the x times... e to the x times the derivative, and then the derivative of e to the x times the original function, sine x. I guess, based on the formula I wrote, I should have these in the reverse order, just to keep everything nice and neat. Alright, there we go. Nothing really changed. But now I put it all together, and we might even say that. So, putting our work together, f prime of x, and this is probably going to be long. I don't even remember how this started. Minus sine, okay, minus sine of x squared plus arctan e to the x sine x. One more bracket. Times... Now the derivative of the inside function, so this will be 2x. So times, keep it all together. Don't want to fail now. 2x plus the derivative of arctan e to the x sine x. So that would be 1 over e to the x sine x all squared plus 1 times the derivative of e to the x sine x. I'm just going to put that on top of my quotient line. I'm going to make that the numerator. That'll be e to the x sine x plus e to the x cos x. And we might even put a little box around this just to make it very clear to whoever's marking that we know what we're talking about. But there we go. There's our answer. And you can do little other things to change this. I mean, e to the x squared could be e to the 2x, and of course sine squared can be written as sine squared. But other than that, I'd leave the answer this way. It really shows where everything's coming from. Okay? But there we go. That's question 30. Up next will be question 31. I will see you guys for that in the next video.